Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson. Tonight, Trump rally in progress right now in Council Bluffs, Iowa. It's right outside Omaha. We're monitoring it, of course, as we always do. And if news happens, we'll go right there. But first, we want to bring you up to speed on what's happening here in Washington. The crack political team over at the Washington Post, our daily local newspaper, has uncovered a brand new species of fake news they think you need to know about. Imaginary left-wing mobs. In a piece posted last night, the Post explained that in order to win the midterm elections, those Republicans have, quote, cast the Trump resistance movement as an angry mob. Now, cast is, of course, here a synonym for misrepresented. The Washington Post wants you to know that these mobs are not real. They're an illusion. And that may surprise you, because you may have recently seen videos of prominent Republicans being chased out of restaurants by screaming progressives. You may have read news accounts about how a Republican congressman from Louisiana was shot with a high-powered rifle by a Bernie Sanders supporter. You may have seen college campuses descend into rioting simply because conservatives showed up to talk. And just this past weekend, you may have watched transfixed as groups of hysterical young people yelled at Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill and then pounded in rage on the front doors of the Supreme Court. All of this may have given you the mistaken impression that there is a threat of disorder and lawlessness from the left building in this country. Some of it funded by a man that the Washington Post neutrally describes, and we're quoting now, as philanthropist George Soros. Well, rest easy, says the Post. In fact, all of this talk of left-wing mobs, quote, taps grievances about the nation's fast-moving cultural and demographic shifts. In other words, this is racism, and it's designed, says the Post, quote, for the benefit of white voters, particularly men. Wow. So the angry left-wing mobs you thought you had been watching on television turn out to be merely a hallucination. They're a fever dream concocted by those diabolical magicians over at Fox News. Thank heaven. You can wake up now. None of it is real. It's 1996 again. But wait, has anyone told the angry left-wing mobs about this? They seem to believe that they exist. In Portland, they're still blocking traffic and breaking things and screaming at old ladies in wheelchairs. Apparently, they don't get the Washington Post in Oregon. Watch. Don't believe your lying eyes. Now, some reports, there haven't been many reports, but some describe the protesters you just watched as Antifa. Others say they're Black Lives Matter. It doesn't matter. What you're actually looking at is the youth wing of the Democratic Party. These are their shock troops. Listen to Maxine Waters and Cory Booker call them to arms.
Go to the Hill today. Get up and please get up in the face of some Congress people.
If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
Go get them. Get in their face. Well, they obeyed. The left always obeys. Obedience is the whole point of their program.
If kids don't eat in peace, you don't eat in peace.
Abolish ICE! Abolish ICE! Abolish ICE! We believe survivors!
Sexist, racist, anti-gay!
We believe survivors! We believe survivors!
Well, thanks to incidents like the one you just saw, the ones the Washington Post assures you aren't real, didn't really happen, and you have no right to be worried about, normal people across the country, nevertheless, are becoming concerned. Now, that's racist, says the Post, because, of course, being yelled at by rich white kids and not liking it is racist. But nevertheless, Kelly Paul, wife of Senator Rand Paul, says that she's so concerned by what's happening that she keeps a loaded gun by her bed. Watch.
So many, frankly, unhinged people and unstable people out there And when they hear someone on their side telling them, get up in their face, they take that literally. And they think that that gives them a license to be very aggressive, be harassing. It does scare me that there is going to be somebody that is really unstable that takes that message a step further. We've updated all of our security systems at home. I sleep with a loaded gun by my bed. I've always felt very safe. We used to never even lock our doors, and now that has all changed.
Well, the Washington Post might call Mrs. Paul paranoid. On the other hand, many on the left openly celebrated when her husband wound up in the hospital after being assaulted by an angry liberal.
My husband had 6 broken ribs and was violently assaulted, was seriously, seriously injured. And to have people like Cher and Bette Midler laughing on the internet and lauding his attacker, it's like, well, what kind of person are you that you think that is acceptable?
Well, that's a fair question. And the video we just showed you is real video. We didn't make it up in the basement to scare you or to win a midterm. Assessing everything you've seen over the past year, you might be tempted to conclude that just maybe there is a growing problem with left-wing mob violence. But left-wing leaders and their propagandists in the press have concluded, you'll be surprised to learn, the exact opposite. Faced with one left-wing riot after another, they have decided the problem is actually you. You're the problem, sitting at home. You're dangerous. In the New York Times this morning, Paul Krugman accused the Republican Party of harboring authoritarian impulses. Apparently, Republicans have been chasing prominent Democrats out of restaurants recently and banging on cars. Oh, wait. There's that projection thing again. Hillary Clinton is so worried, though, about how dangerous the Republican Party has become, those angry Mormon grandmothers in black bandanas you're seeing in downtown Portland, smashing windows, that she no longer considers Republicans Americans or even fully human. According to Hillary Clinton, you no longer have to be civil to Republicans. You can do whatever you want to them because they deserve it.
You cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about. That's why I believe if we are fortunate enough to win back the House and/or the Senate, that's when civility can start again.
Yeah, when we win, civility can return. So there you have it, the perfect distillation. There's the most recent Democratic presidential candidate, the leader of her party by default, endorsing viciousness openly against her political opponents. And yet, according to the Washington Post, a newspaper, this is what Republican extremism looks like. And you'd have to be crazy not to see it. Andy No lives in Portland, Oregon. He's a journalist at Quillette. He's been following this very closely, and he joins us tonight. So, Andy, we played a bunch of videos, some of which you publicized, of what's happening in the streets of Portland. I don't even know what your politics are, but were those, I just want to be clear, were those right-wing protesters, were those Republicans in the streets of Portland?
They were not.
They were not. Who were they, and what was the point of this, and how much coverage did it get in Portland, and did any civic or political leaders in Portland raise any kind of outcry about this, the violence?
Some of the footage you showed was recorded over the weekend on Saturday by Brandon Farley, and that was a protest organized by Don't Shoot Portland, which is a Black Lives Matter type of group. They were protesting the police-involved shooting of a man who is suspected of shooting 2 people. And, the police here take a pretty hands-off approach much of the time with protesters, and what you saw on Saturday in the video is that demonstrators were allowed to take over a street in downtown Portland and direct traffic and threaten drivers, stop traffic, while the police looked on from a block away because they were afraid of inflaming the situation.
Did Democratic political leaders in Portland denounce the violence?
Not as far as I know. I mean, I know the story right now is being framed in a pretty partisan way in your show, but the facts of the matter on hand is that the Portland mayor, Ted Wheeler, also doubles as a police commissioner. And while I'm not privy to some of the internal conversations that he may have with the police department here, just based on other events that have happened in the past, I would say there's sort of a dereliction of duty of upholding the rule of law.
One might be tempted to come to that conclusion. The Washington Post doesn't agree, but I do. Thank you very much, Andy. Good to see you. Thank you for putting that online.
My pleasure.
Quentin James is co-founder of Vested Strategies. He joins us tonight. So, Quentin, we don't agree politically, but I think we can both agree that people banging on cars with batons, threatening old ladies, is totally unacceptable. Why isn't that being denounced?
Look, Tucker, I think it is unacceptable. Again, we can agree on that. But there are larger problems at hand here. I think the violence that we're seeing across the country isn't really coming from the left, but actually from the right. You could show clips tonight of, Dylan Roof preparing to kill people in a church in Charleston, or clips of many of the other white supremacists who've gone on and killed people, like in Charlottesville last year with Heather Heyer. But on both sides,
hold on.
No one is calling for violence on either side, Tucker. I think that's the most important part.
Well, actually, yes. You heard Maxine Waters say get in people's faces in restaurants and gas stations.
Tucker, that's not violence. She's calling for peaceful protests.
Actually, if you scream at someone to the point where they have to leave the restaurant, that is, I don't know, violence. That's an act of wild aggression, I would say. Is that happening to a lot of Democratic lawmakers? Can you think of one?
I don't think people should be obnoxious with their protest, right? But look, I think this is a time for civil disobedience. Can I think of what? I'm sorry?
Can you think of a case where a Democratic politician has been, I don't know, doxxed by a Republican staffer, has been chased out of a restaurant,
Tucker,
screamed at on an airplane? I don't see that. Look, I understand the both sides argument, but I don't see that.
In 2010, people showed up to congressional town halls with loaded weapons. And I don't know how we distinguish that from, violence, right, and showing up, armed. So, look, we aren't seeing that.
That seems like a non sequitur to me. I'm just saying right now in 2008, you've seen a lot of people.
Look, we have one-party rule in Washington, Tucker, so the Republicans are in charge.
But what about the 250-year-old tradition of explaining what you're for and explaining why what the other person is for is wrong? When did we get to a place where office holders encourage young people to really? Because Hillary Clinton just said you no longer have to be civil to people you disagree with. What do you think of that?
I think what Hillary Clinton is saying is that what we're not seeing, unfortunately, from the Republican Party is leadership to hold President Trump accountable.
No, that's not what she may be saying that. She may be saying that, but that's not what I'm quoting. And look, that's a debatable point. But she said, we don't have to guess because she said it explicitly, you don't have to be civil to Republicans because they're too big a threat to you. That's not what she said explicitly.
She was saying at a point,
no, she wasn't
you can't be civil when a party is not following legislative protocol.
So you disagree.
We're seeing an agenda from
you don't be civil?
Trump.
Wait, but hold on. You don't like Trump. I get it. But hold on. I'm not talking about Trump. I don't care about Trump. I care about the rest of the country. You're not required to be civil to people you disagree with? Like, do you want to live in that country? Honestly.
Tucker, I am not calling for incivility. I think.
But what do you think of what Hillary?
Frustrated.
Can't you say? I get it. I know. I lived 3 years of Obama. I know what it's like to be frustrated. I thought he really hurt the country, but I was always civil.
We saw a lot of similar protests from people on the right.
Then why don't you just say, look, Hillary Clinton? That's not helpful. Will anybody break ranks, or everyone's just a little lemming on the left? You have to be like, oh, Hillary said it, I agree. Can you just say, Hillary, actually, I think we should continue to be civil, though we disagree.
The challenge here is we're not seeing that level of accountability from the Republicans with their own president right now.
I'm happy to criticize Republicans all the time because I'm not a partisan robot. But everyone on the left, they will never criticize anything. All right. Okay.
President Obama got criticized when he went against the will of the party. We saw that for 8 years, Tucker. We saw blue dog Democrats.
Are you gonna? Will you just say Hillary Clinton is wrong? I mean, let's just be civil, even if we disagree, or no? We can't say that.
Look, I don't think she was calling for incivility, and so look, should we not be in? Look, that's the point here, Tucker.
Okay, they're barking at me.
No one is calling for incivility.
Okay, go rewind the show and look at the tape, and we'll talk later. Quentin, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Tucker.